a guest who's been on the show just a year ago. It's crazy, but she has some big things to continue to discuss. Who's our guest today, Sherry?
Our guest today is Barbara Guth. And yeah, she has grown a lot since then. She has one thing, has a third book coming out, which I do want to talk about because not only is she a client of Storos Media Group, but she's also a friend. And we've done a road trip together and all that. You just don't take road trips with anybody, but Barbara and I did. So we had a grand time. But a little bit about Barbara is she's the founder and CEO of Sagasi Hope. Is that how you pronounce
Sagesse.
it?
Sagesse. It's a French word for wisdom. Sagesse.
And it's funding, founding, and she's also founded, and co-founded several startup companies. She was a 9/11 first responder, which, by the way, I didn't know about that, but that's that. So welcome, Barbara, to the show. It's really
Thanks
good to
for
have
having,
you back.
thanks for having me, both of you, and good to see you again now.
Good to see you too.
Yeah. So, let's talk about this, book of yours, this Evolution of Finance, that you're coming out with book number 3. It is a trilogy. So this is the final book that you worked on. And you had this like epiphany, right, of how to structure finance creators, people who invent things, business owners. And it's really a great concept. A lot of people have grabbed onto it and said, wow. So your first book, little backstory, because I'm a backstory kind of girl. The first book of the trilogy was The Evolution of Finance, A New Vision for Entrepreneur Innovation. It became an Amazon bestseller in 6 categories. I know, I was there. And then your second book is the follow-up called the same thing, Evolution of Finance from Tyranny to Freedom. It became an Amazon bestseller in several categories. Again, I was there for that. And now you got the third book, Evolution of Finance, Volume 3. So, tell us, like, out of all of this, the overall purpose of your books and models.
The overall purpose is to protect creation, and by doing that, you actually can help liberate humanity. That would be the
Yeah, your key themes and what are you trying to establish? And your book is all full of that kind of information and helping and peace and what people working together and supporting instead of taking.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a difference. It's an energetic shift. It's a completely different mindset, understanding that if we actually support our innovators who are really bringing the future of humanity, right? I mean, if we keep undermining them and trying to redirect them because we have to make more money really fast this way, you're never going to get to the full expression of what they were actually here to bring and what they were bringing in through their visions. And so that's kind of counterintuitive to evolving as a species, right? Because it just corrupts the whole game. And so that really, we just really need to think about that. And it's really infected the entire system, right? And it starts at the beginning in the entrepreneurial sector. And again, it's the model that I'm talking about. It's not people, it's about the models that we've been dealing with for all these years. And it's like, wait, did we ever think about the like long-term implications and outcomes of this, And so,
Right. And do you think in a lot of ways people look at money in a bad way instead of a good way?
well, we've been taught to attach our value to it. So once you do that, then it becomes really, really important to you. So that's this whole thing. It's a misguided idea of how we value ourselves. And if, money can come and go. So that makes you really, really vulnerable if you lose it, or you can do great and you're flying high and then suddenly you lose everything, then what? So it puts people in an exceptionally vulnerable position, which your value, you have to understand, is within you. It's not outside. And as you start to understand that and actually start appreciating the truth of what you are as a human being and the capacity to create and co-create together, um, that's a really sacred kind of thing that I just don't think we need to continue exploiting anymore.
Well, all three of us here are entrepreneurs,
Mm.
right? And then we birthed this child, which is our business and many businesses. And I tell you, we sacrifice just like you would a child, blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, that's your baby. And to think, and I was, some of the people you had in your book that you talked about, like, so much you pour into that baby. and then somebody comes in and, does what, kicks your legs out from under you, and you're in a very vulnerable position. You need funding, you need money or whatever, and and then you have the lions come in, or the sharks smelling blood. So you point that out, but you're not person, you're not the kind of person who tells about a problem without bringing a solution, which is what your books are doing, is bringing that solution, right? Yeah. So one of the things I really want to talk about is, you mentioned the divine feminine in finance.
Wow.
What is that about? Tell us
Think
about
about
that.
that. Yeah, because the whole, it actually ties into exactly what you were speaking out on about it on a certain level. Because, the last 2000 years, it's really been kind of an imbalanced masculine. You understand the world operates in various archetypal waves, and there's a divine feminine, divine masculine, yin yang, whatever you want to call it, whatever spiritual tradition you're talking about. But there's always a balance. And when you have an imbalance in that, you're going to have a problem, which we're obviously seeing, But nowhere in finance do you hear about how all of the people that are bringing all the future of humanity, how they're protected, how they're nurtured, how they're cherished, how they're supported, how they're guided. They're guided, yes, but generally guided to a different agenda than what they may have had. And so to bring that back into, actually into finance for the first time, it's going to be really, I think, a shocking dynamic, because it's never been balanced ever. We've never experienced that on a planet before. When you think about that, it's profound. It's like, well, golly, what could that look like? That we actually nourish innovation rather than exploiting it, and see where we go. I don't think we've really touched on what true abundance looks like yet, because we've operated out of these natural archetypal dynamics, or these divine dynamics. And when you do that, you're going to end up kind of in a corner, in a mess. So let's do it differently and see what can happen. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do things differently.
So how would we do it differently?
Well, I'm bringing the solution that came through me, which is the Sovereign Revenue Trust entity. It's a special purpose entity. It's a legal structure. It's a patent pending alternative. You could call it a hybrid entity to enable inventors to actually reclaim their sovereignty, to maintain their free will. These are unheard of concepts around inventors, I can tell you that. And so with that ability, then people are actually able to make free choice about what they feel is most appropriate for their technology and for their company, in conjunction with their investors. Not that the investors, I mean, you have to respect your investors and your inventors. And right now, the whole system has been set up that everybody's got to focus in this one direction. It's like, nah, let's do it another way, and actually focus on everybody's best outcome and see where we go there. So it's through the structure, you enable freedom of the inventors, which has been prevented all this time. Think about that. I mean, particularly as Americans, but it's global. But as Americans, freedom's kind of a big thing. And our free will and our right to sovereignty is a really big thing. And so that has been completely denied to our inventors for a very long time. And so I've had quite a number of people that are reaching out to me from that field that are very, very happy that I'm having this conversation, because it's never really been happening until now.
It definitely hasn't. And is that responsibility? You're thinking more and more the responsibility of investors for companies, and then and also the people that they're investing with.
Responsibility. I would say it's a mutual respect that I'm talking about. This is simple stuff. It's really simple stuff about how are we engaging in relationship? Are we doing it from exploitation? Or are we doing it from mutual respect? If we're going to do it from mutual respect, then everybody gets to have their rights and free will respected in that dynamic. You figure out what's best for everybody, and then you make an appropriate choice. That's not what happens right now. That's not what happens in the venture model. Okay. And so that's a really big engine that's driving towards a particular direction we don't necessarily want to go, because again, that's a merger acquisition model, or you go public, one of the two, to be able to receive investor returns, right? That's the model that's been put in place. And so when you do that, you're going to drive towards centralized power. So that, getting back to freedom, is not a good idea. Okay. It's not a good idea. We need balanced power dynamics. I mean, I mentioned it before, but when I was in Rwanda, I really learned about how balancing power dynamics leads to peaceful dynamics. Okay, because when you have a big power discrepancy, all of these people down below don't have any voice. And at some point, they're going to have a voice, and they're not going to come knocking on the door with a lot of smiles. Okay, when they want to actually rectify that. So it's long term. If you want humanity to thrive, set up a dynamic through finance, particularly because that's the driver of all these other sectors, right? If you can set that up at the beginning of finance, we can shift this whole trajectory. I mean, and what I love about this is it's the power of the people that will make that decision. It's not being directed top down. Although different sovereign funds have been reaching out to me as well. So I think it's going to be a mixed dynamic, which is really, really interesting to me because I'm living this live myself, I mean, build it and they will come, right? That's really what I've been doing. And so it's interesting who's responding to me and how they're responding and how they're perceiving this. It's something that really people hadn't considered before in this way, because everybody just takes the way we do things for granted because that's the way we've always done it. It's like, well, look where we are. Let's change it.
Yeah, I'm all about freedom. And so it does beg to ask about usury in the founders in the Constitution, which founders in the Constitution was why we, started the whole freedom process. So explain that, the usury, along with the founders in the Constitution.
This was a big one because I was in the middle of this third book. It was real late one night, and I was mostly done with the book, and this usury thing, it's like usury, there's something else missing, and I was just, I couldn't figure it out. Excuse me. Because usually we're just looking at it one-dimensionally. You have, you borrow money and then somebody charges you an egregious interest rate and then you're indebted to them, right? But that's a one-dimensional perspective. What it doesn't address, nobody's addressed it, not in the Magna Carta or the Constitution. This actually siphoning off of the human creative juice, the soul of a human being that it's not just a physical enslavement, so to speak. It's actually a spiritual, emotional enslavement as well. And so when you're doing that and you're basically siphoning off a lot of human energetic, creative energetic, it's a real atrocity, when you think about that. So that whole system, I mean, we've looked at all kinds of ways that the Constitution has been undermined. But when I really saw how that particular piece that has never been addressed and how we're losing our ability to actually self-direct because of these power, again, going back to the power imbalances, right? It's all tied together in this big, nasty soup. And if you can just kind of untangle it, which is what I've been doing these last 8 years, as you untangle that, you start saying, oh, actually, this isn't this hard to fix once you there's really one string, and it's the finance industry, right? And all these different dynamics interplay with that and lead us to where we are now. And it would be nice to have peace on the planet and actually thrive collectively across every nation, internationally. That would be a really interesting thing to explore instead of all the other stuff we're doing. That would be interesting.
So how does this work? How do you make this happen? This is a great goal, and I think it can be achieved, especially when I think that if we look historically at the way the world worked years ago, total world domination was for religion or for killing everyone, just for total domination. They weren't looking at how can we achieve a global society that's able to work together as one. It's always been, and now every decision that's made by world powers is money versus religion in a lot of ways, mostly, or just destroy total domination and destroy everything. Humanity's changed in certain ways, but how do we reach that goal that you're talking about?
I don't know if humanity's changed. You know what? I will tell you, I will respond to your question, but I do think a lot of the people that put these systems in place did it a long time ago. And I don't know that they had the best interest of humanity at heart, because most of us are just trying to get by, have a good life, be with the people we love and raise children and whatever we do, is finding fulfilling in our lives. So I think we're all just having to play this game as far as humanity is concerned. So my point is change the game. So the way I've seen this, because I've had a lot of time to think about all this as I pull all this together, I really feel like the people that will drive this ideally would be the inventors. The inventors deciding that they no longer want to participate in this exploitative dynamic, right? Particularly, any of them, but particularly the ones that the big money people would be after. Those people say, actually, I don't want to use your model anymore. Thank you very much. I want to use a model that actually respects me and honors me. And as more inventors decide to do that, they become kind of the heroes in this whole story because they decide to reclaim their sovereignty. I'm giving them the tool to be able to do that. And then as investors come in and realize, okay, I don't want to be part of that other system either. I don't want to continue exploiting people. And I actually don't want to set up a system that's going to ultimately enslave myself. So when everybody thinks a little down the road, you can see, wow, okay, so it's the inventors, the investors from around the world. And then we, the people, dictate our outcomes and drive our outcomes. And we start experiencing our true destiny versus the one that's been dictated to us. That's how I see it.
So, Sherry, your thoughts?
Well, I listen to her, and being, in the book industry, I can compare authors. Authors are inventors. They invent this book, this idea, this concept, and they enter into this whole process with excitement and naivety. And I think of a lot of people out there who do that, and people who come in and swoop down and promise them a lot of stuff. Anyway, it ends up not being a pleasant experience for some of them because they're taking advantage of the naivety and their excitement. And I think about that when it comes to inventions as well. So it does hold near and dear to my heart, because I've seen a lot of people get crushed or really disillusioned because of the same concept.
Yeah, this happens across the board, and it's the sacred heart of humanity that we're harming. And
Yeah.
you really want to continue doing that. The beauty of this moment is everything is imploding, potentially, or shifting dramatically, if you want to make it better. There's a lot of change that's going to be happening. And as that happens, we, the people, can rise up in that and say, you know what, actually we want to do things differently. And here's how we're going to do it, and put various solutions out on the table. I've been working on this since 2016 is when it came through me. And it takes time to bring in a new financial dynamic, a new process. But the biggest thing, actually, that's the easy part, really. The bigger thing is actually talking about the mindset shift that helps people realize, actually, we do have the power to make a change. If you have a tool, you can actually do that, then you're really empowered. And then if everybody comes together collectively and decides, let's change this. Let's change this together. Then we're inspiring across cultures, across nations, across everything, to come together and actually build a world that we really want to live in, and we want our future children to live in.
Makes complete sense. And you got to read the book to find out more, right?
Yes, yes, you do.
Yeah. It's been something we've been working on.
We're working on that right now. But yeah, it's an alchemical process that I'm talking about. It's really, truly an alchemical process to transcend the matrix. That's what I'm talking about. Through finance, I mean, that's an interesting idea.
It's not been done. Has it been done?
You mean the transcending the matrix?
Yeah.
Not, but golly, it's an interesting time right now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And what do you think, people that have tried to do this, and why have they not been able to reach the goal that you want to reach?
Well, that's a good question. A lot of people have tried to rectify this through war or conflict, or a lot of inflicting will upon another. And that approach will never last long term, because somebody's always going to resent that and reject it and wait by their time until they can change that because it was forced upon them. What I'm talking about is really providing a tool for humanity to exercise its free will in all the ways that looks like regarding innovation. And so, some inventors are going to want to stay sovereign and private. Others are going to want to get acquired. Others are going to want to go public. That will all kind of come out in the wash, just like it does in the natural world. Things kind of balance if you get out of the way. Okay. So if we allow humanity to be able to make the choices it wants to based on what it's feeling in its heart through various different individuals, then we can start seeing what humanity is really capable of. We've been had this around our neck for a very, very long time, this old system. And as we liberate ourselves from that, I find a really extraordinary future waiting for us. I do. I have no doubt about that, because most people are operating from good heart. Most people. The system brings out a lot of behavior that's not ideal, but that's because it was inflicted upon us. You know, if you actually are able to thrive in a particular environment, what are you going to bring to the table? It's more creative, beautiful things than you are how to destroy and exploit somebody else. You won't have the need, right?
Yeah.
But it's happened through free will. Free will. And there's, you know, this time in history also, we've never had the ability to intercommunicate together across the globe like we do now. You know, I'm sitting here in this condo in Florida at the moment. You guys are wherever you are, right? And we can be wherever we are and have these profound communications. I'm talking with a gentleman out of Canada who's starting something called Peacepreneurs, which is bringing business and peace together, which we've been talking about for a really long time. And so what's amazing about that is, you know, I'm connected with this global network of peace builders from around the world who understand, you know, how conflict happens and how to actually try to shift that. And one of the biggest problems in businesses is founder syndrome and, you know, lots of interrelational dynamics that can harm a company. Okay. So when you're able to actually address those challenges on the internal level, but real consciousness with real awareness towards a committed outcome together, you know, that there's a lot of ways we can come together cross sector, bridge the silos we're all living in and bridging together in that way. And then we can capitalize and enhance outcomes through this other knowledge we haven't really had access to before, you know? So I love that. I love that. I've traveled a lot around the world, and I'm so intrigued by different cultures and the way people, you know, there's so many different ways to do reality, you know, and it's so informative. It's like, oh, wow, that's actually an asset, not a hindrance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what's the first step business owners and entrepreneurs need to do?
Get clear about what's in your heart, about what you want to do, with how you want to bring this forward. Do you want to stay private as long as you can, or do you want to get acquired? That's a very important thing to get clear about right out of the gates, excuse me. Because once you know that, then you can actually make decisions that are appropriate for your business. And then you find the right investors that are aligned with that, investors that are aligned with that. And then you're all on the same page, driving towards the same outcome. Okay. But that's really important to understand what, as a creator, what is your goal, you know? And then you make decisions based on that, and you bring teams around you that are aligned with that, as well as investors. And so then you use a tool that actually ensures that can happen and everybody's on the same page. We're all clear, we're going here, you know, and if we're going to change that, we're going to dialogue about it and figure out something else. But again, it's coming back to mutual respect. These are not, you know, these are not new concepts. Experiencing that, though, in these dynamics would be something really new for a lot of people, though, particularly in entrepreneurial finance. Mm.
And that's the thing that you look at investors. How do you make sure there's ethical investing with that you've chose investors that really see the mission and vision of your business?
Well, that's the whole point, because even with you know, people talk a good game. I've encountered it a lot. Then they end up doing something very different, right? And it's like, oh, how interesting. I wasn't remotely curious about what they were.
Hate that.
Well, it's an experience. You develop good discernment, don't you? But one of the things that particularly, there's what do you call it? A declaration, really, that I put out in my book, and I have it in all my financial documents as well, that we are committing to this inventor's vision. We are doing this. Now, can people act outside of that? Yes. But when you're making it exceptionally visible that everybody is on the same page, or we have documentation amongst us that we are committed to this outcome, there's lots of different things that I do, but that's a small, obvious thing to do. But the big key is, you know, to find out earlier if people are committed to the same thing you are or not. Otherwise, you waste a lot of time going down the wrong path, and I've had investors, commit to one thing and then down the road, they realize you're vulnerable and it's like, oh, we're going on for the kill. So spending time with those people, it helps you to actually ascertain, are they truly aligned or are they just talking, So that's something ethical. And the other piece too, because my platform will be based on blockchain, which is very different from a crypto. I'm not interested in the crypto dynamic. I'm interested in the blockchain transparency and being able to prevent centralized power. So, when everything is very transparent to everyone amongst the team and the group, that helps a lot for inspiring appropriate behavior,
Mm-hmm.
And the book is going to be launched. Oh, go ahead.
Good. What were we going to say, Sherry? Sorry.
Now, the book, you're planning on the book being launched September 11th. That's the goal, which I just, as I was reading your bio, like I said, I didn't know you were a 9/11, we were a responder to that. And I don't know, did that have anything to do with your decision to launch it on September 11th?
You're hitting on something. Yeah, so this whole thing started because of that, because I was down at Ground Zero I used to work in surgery in France. So I volunteer with the National Guard. And because of the search and rescue or the surgical background, I did search and rescue just initially because of course there was no one to save. So, but when I was down there on the 12th or 13th, but when I was down there, that's when I made a commitment about this. It's very, very deep. And I realized, we had aimed for August 8th, right, Sherry? And got delayed in the timeline around the launch. And I was sitting there just praying about it, just sitting in meditation about it. And it's like, when is the date? And then it just came through me. Of course, what else could it be but September 11th? Because it's a writing of a
wrong.
Powerful. I mean, it's perfect timing for it to come out and look at what everyone went through and to honor people that didn't survive.
And what caused that in the end?
Good question. I mean, I think it's greed, wouldn't you say, in a lot of ways?
I was about to say that's the first word, greed.
This whole system, it's profound. And when I realized the date, it's like chills up and down my body. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, so it's spiritually poetic.
Totally. All right. The best place people can check you out, Barbara, is to go where?
Well, I have two websites. Thank you. theevolutionoffinance.com. And then Sages, I need an easier way to spell this word because it's all S's, but it's Sages, SAGESSESRTE.com. Sovereign Revenue Trust Entity, Sages, Sovereign, SRTE.com. I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic.
I'm so appreciative of the time together, you guys. It means a great deal to me.
It's intriguing. It's groundbreaking, but it's yet been taught forever, but yet no one wants to do it. And you're trying to bridge finance that no one would think with this subject.
You have to understand the core issue and how to actually transmute that core issue. And so that's what the tool is enabling. And then it's the power of the people that decide what they want to do, engage it or not engage it. It's up to them. Okay. And then it's in humanity's hands. But I've done what I was guided to do, and I'm at peace about that.
All right. And go to storehousemediagroup.com to contact Sherry today. Everything in marketing, sales, AI, movies, go to storehousemediagroup.com. Appreciate